They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But what if some of those words were things you'd rather not hear? Creeping whispers that linger in the dark corners of your mind long after the photograph fades out. Some photographs don't simply capture a memory, they trap it. These images, the ones I'm talking about, hold a dark and disturbing kind of magic. They aren't just moments frozen in time, they're windows that provide glimpses into places we don't want to believe exist, but do. This video is about those photographs, and let me just tell you right now, viewer discretion is advised. There's something about clowns that's always been unsettling, isn't there? The painted smile, the exaggerated features, meant to bring joy but somehow skirting the edge of terror. Now imagine a killer clown who was operating in plain sight, using this clown mask to perpetrate unspeakable horrors. John Wayne Gacy's clown photos aren't just unsettling, they're a portrait of horror wearing a mask intended to disarm the most innocent amongst us. Behind that grease paint grin is a man who hid his true face beneath layers of makeup. John Wayne Gacy, born in Chicago, Illinois in 1942, remains one of the most horrifying serial killers in American criminal history. His early life was marred by an abusive relationship with his alcoholic father, leading to a troubled childhood filled with instances of physical and emotional abuse. Despite these challenges, Gacy tried to establish a semblance of normalcy, getting involved in politics and the community, and marrying twice. However, his dark side was evident from an early age, including a conviction for a criminal act of an unnatural nature against a teenage boy in 1968. Unfortunately, he only served 18 months of a 10-year sentence for this act. John Wayne Gacy led a seemingly respectable life in his community outside of his criminal activities. Known for his sociability, Gacy was a prominent figure in his suburban Chicago neighborhood. He was not just a local businessman, but also involved in community activities that positioned him as a trustworthy and benevolent figure. Gacy founded a successful construction business, PDM Contractors, which not only bolstered his standing in the community, but also facilitated his sinister activities under the guise of offering employment. Beyond his business endeavors, Gacy was known for his active participation in local politics, where he volunteered as the Democratic precinct captain. His political involvement granted him access to influential circles, further enhancing his reputation as a community leader and disarming those around him. This status was complemented by his engagement in charitable events, notably his performances as Pogo the Clown at children's parties. His clown persona endeared him to many, but also became one of his defining characteristics when the true nature of his crimes were revealed. Moreover, Gacy was adept at building personal relationships within his neighborhood using the Pogo the Clown persona. He was known to host elaborate block parties, fostering a sense of community and camaraderie among his neighbors, all while slipping into his clown persona. These events, coupled with his seemingly generous and gregarious nature, built him a solid reputation, which would later be seen as cover for his immoral and evil acts. Gacy's criminal activities escalated in the 1970s, culminating in the horrific acts that led to his arrest and eventual ending by the judicial system. The turning point in the Gacy saga came with the disappearance of teenager Robert Piest in 1978, which led to Gacy's arrest. On December 11, 1978, Gacy visited a pharmacy in Des Plaines, Illinois, to discuss a remodeling project with the owner. Robert Piest was a teenage boy employed by the pharmacy as a part-time worker. During this visit, Gacy, who was aware that 15-year-old Robert Piest was listening, mentioned that his firm often employed teenage boys at a high hourly rate. This statement was designed to attract the attention of Piest and highlights Gacy's manipulative tactics. Shortly afterward, when Piest's mother arrived to pick him up, He told her about the potential job opportunity with the contractor and asked her to wait, as he planned to speak with Gacy about the job. He left the pharmacy at 9 p.m., promising to return soon. However, this meeting was a ploy by Gacy to lure Piest to his home. Once there, the situation turned incredibly sinister. Gacy offered Piest a soft drink and began asking inappropriate questions about his willingness to work for money. Gacy managed to trick Piest into putting on handcuffs under the guise of showing him a magic trick. This was a common method Gacy used to subdue his victims. Gacy killed Piest that same evening, and in an act of extreme detachment from reality, or perhaps just pure psychopathy, took a business call during the process. When Piest failed to return as promised, his mother reported it to the police immediately, with the pharmacy owner advising the police Piest left with Gacy. Gacy gave a statement to the police in the early hours of December 12, 1978, which led to a search warrant being issued. Police obtained and conducted a search warrant on December 13, 1978, and recovered evidence that made them believe Gacy may be keeping Piest alive at a secondary location. Rather than immediately arrest him, Gacy was put on surveillance in hopes of being able to save Piest, whom they believed could still be alive. While under surveillance, Gacy, displaying his sociopathic tendencies fully, invited two police detectives out for dinner, where he famously remarked, quote, "Clowns can get away with killing." On December 19, 1978, out of pure delusion, or out of a pure sociopathic desire for absolute control, Gacy sued the Des Plaines Police Department for damages related to their investigation. Eventually, the police conducted a full search of the crawl space beneath Gacy's house, and what they discovered shocked everyone. His house contained the remains of 33 young men, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Despite being caught dead to rights, a trial ensued regardless, with Gacy's defense claiming insanity. Gacy's trial was a media spectacle, filled with harrowing testimonies from the families of the victims and evidence of his brutal acts. Witnesses recounted their last interactions with their loved ones, while others provided first-hand accounts of narrow escapes from Gacy's clutches. The prosecution successfully argued that Gacy's outward normalcy and ability to conceal his true nature pointed to his full awareness and responsibility for his actions. Despite attempts by the defense to claim mental illness, Gacy was deemed legally sane and accountable for his actions. He was sentenced to death on March 13, 1980, and, in a remarkably quick turnaround time, Gacy met his demise via lethal injection on May 10, 1994. This evidence photograph from Lake Bodom is more than just a record of a crime scene. It's a chilling fragment of something lost. The tent, torn and bloodied, stands as a silent witness to a violence so sudden and brutal that it leaves the mind grasping for answers. Each detail in the image feels wrong, a grotesque puzzle with no solution. It's a photograph that doesn't just document a crime, it captures the aftermath of chaos, the eerie silence that only follows after something monstrous has passed through. In the early hours of June 5, 1960, a chilling event unfolded at Lake Bodom, near Espoo, Finland. 4 teenagers, Mila Irmeli Björklund, Anja Maki, Seppo Antero Boisman, and Niels Wilhelm Gustafsson, embarked on a camping trip that ended tragically. The group set up their tent along the tranquil shores of Lake Bodom, expecting a night of camaraderie and outdoor adventure. However, their peaceful retreat turned into a nightmare when, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., an assailant attacked, resulting in the deaths of Björklund, Maki, and Boisman. They were subjected to a brutal assault involving stabbing and bludgeoning, while Gustafsson, the sole survivor, was found with serious injuries and fractured facial bones. Early reports suggested a sighting of a mysterious figure, described as a blond man, seen leaving the campsite around the time of the incident. The crime scene, discovered by a passerby later that morning, revealed a disturbing scene. The victim's tent collapsed, with evidence of the violence that had occurred spilling out onto the lakeshore. The investigation into the incident was marred by significant oversights from the outset. Critical errors, such as the failure to secure the crime scene promptly and the mishandling of potential evidence, hampered the police's efforts to identify the perpetrator. The mysterious nature of the crime, combined with these investigative missteps, led to widespread speculation and numerous theories about the identity of the assailant. Over the years, several suspects have emerged, each with their own compelling, yet ultimately inconclusive, connections to the case. Among them were Carl Valdemar Gilstrom, a local kiosk owner known for his animosity towards campers. Another was Hans Assmann, who exhibited suspicious behavior and was seen with blood-stained clothes shortly after the incident. Despite various leads and extensive investigations, no conclusive evidence was found to definitively link any suspect to the crime. In a twist over 4 decades later, the lone survivor Gustafsson was arrested and charged with the slayings, based on allegedly conclusive forensic evidence. Gustafsson had never been named as a suspect or even a person of interest. The prosecution suggested that a drunken altercation between Gustafsson and his friends led to the tragic events. The forensic evidence against Gustafsson centered around several key pieces of evidence that, according to the prosecution's theory of the case, implicated him in the tragic events of 1960. According to the prosecution, one of the most compelling pieces of evidence was the discovery of the victim's blood on Gustafsson's shoes. Additionally, the prosecution claimed that these shoes were found hidden away from the crime scene, suggesting a possible attempt to conceal his involvement. Another piece of evidence that the prosecutors claimed worked against Gustafsson was the nature and extent of his injuries compared to those of the deceased. Prosecutors argued that the pattern of Gustafsson's injuries could suggest a scenario in which he engaged in a confrontation with his friends, leading to a deadly escalation. According to their theory of the case, the absence of Gustafsson's blood on the shoes was also seen as significant, suggesting that his injuries occurred after the murders were committed, possibly in an attempt to fabricate a narrative of being another victim. Despite this evidence, the court ultimately found it insufficient for a conviction. The acquittal was based on several factors. The forensic evidence, while suggestive, was not conclusive. It could not prove Gustafsson's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution's interpretation of the bloodstains and injury patterns was challenged by the defense, which argued that the evidence could be interpreted in multiple ways. Additionally, the defense highlighted the significant time gap between the incident and Gustafsson's trial. This suggested that the forensic analysis could be flawed or incomplete due to the degradation of evidence over time. The court also considered the lack of a clear motive and the possibility of external involvement, given the complexities of the case and the initial mishandling of the crime scene, which could have compromised the evidence. Ultimately, the court decided that the evidence presented did not meet the stringent standards required for a criminal conviction, leading to Gustafsson's acquittal. In my view, the trial against Gustafsson, over 4 decades after the Lake Bodom incident, raised significant concerns about the fairness and viability of pursuing a conviction. One critical argument against proceeding with the trial was the extensive time lapse between the incident in 1960 and the trial in 2005. Over such a long period, evidence can degrade, witness memories fade, and the integrity of forensic analysis can be compromised, making it challenging to establish facts with the required level of certainty for a criminal conviction. The initial investigation's mishandling, including the failure to secure the crime scene, further undermined the reliability of any evidence presented decades later. Additionally, the absence of new, unequivocal evidence against Gustafsson and the speculative nature of the forensic analysis presented by the prosecution highlighted the speculative basis for the charges. Without definitive physical evidence directly linking Gustafsson to the crime or new testimony, the trial appeared to some as a simple attempt to close the case rather than seek justice. As a result of this miscarriage of justice against Gustafsson, he was awarded 45,000 euros for this ordeal, which was paid to him by Finland. John Allen Chau's last selfie, posted on October 21, 2018, feels like an eerie prelude to tragedy. There he stands, smiling, the ocean behind him, unaware or perhaps defiant to the fate that awaits him. His eyes show a mixture of determination and excitement, but beneath that is a reckless innocence. The photograph seems normal, almost too ordinary, but knowing his fate, it becomes a haunting image of a man on the brink of an irreversible decision. This picture, like so many before disaster, speaks louder after the fact. On November 2018, the world learned about John Allen Chau, a 26-year-old American with a long-standing commitment to evangelism. His dedication to missionary work was part of a larger life theme, evident from his educational background and previous missionary trips. Chau, an Oral Roberts University graduate, was deeply involved in student missionary groups. He participated in missions across various regions, including South Africa and Iraqi Kurdistan, showcasing his commitment to spreading the faith. He had a particularly keen interest in bringing Christianity to people who had never heard of Jesus Christ before. With this in mind, he embarked on a mission to introduce Christianity to the North Sentinelese people, a secluded tribe residing on North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean. The North Sentinelese are known for their extreme resistance to any external contact. John Allen Chau prepared meticulously for his mission, influenced by figures like Jim Elliot, a missionary who was killed while attempting to evangelize the Huarani tribe in Ecuador. He participated in a boot camp type activity where other members of his congregation pretended to be hostile tribespeople. I question whether Bob the car salesman and Linda from HR were quite as ferocious in their opposition to being contacted as an actual Sentinelese islander, but I digress. Chau's final efforts, as detailed in his diaries, demonstrate his clear understanding of the dangers involved and his profound commitment to his cause. Chau was, to put it simply, very much ready to give his life to this cause and the cause of the souls of the people on the island. Chau's approach to North Sentinel Island was fraught with challenges. Despite warnings from the fishermen who transported him close to the island, he proceeded towards the shore in a kayak, carrying a waterproof Bible as a symbolic and practical gesture of his mission. Upon his approach, Chau tried to communicate with the Sentinelese by offering gifts and attempting to convey messages of goodwill. However, his efforts were met with suspicion and hostility, typical reactions from a tribe that has consistently resisted external contacts for centuries. The Sentinelese's response varied from amusement and bewilderment to outright aggression, indicating their confusion and rejection of his presence and offerings. In an attempt to bridge the communication gap, Chau even sang worship songs and spoke in a South African language completely foreign to the islanders. This unsurprisingly led to moments of silence or laughter from the tribe, who were presumably extremely confused by Chau's attempt. The situation escalated when a young islander shot an arrow that pierced Chau's Bible, a symbolic act of rejection and a clear sign of the Sentinelese's desire to remain undisturbed. Undeterred, Chau made a final attempt to reach out to the tribe on November 17th, asking the fishermen to leave him on the island. Tragically, this last visit resulted in his death, as indicated by the fishermen's reports of seeing his body being dragged and buried by the islanders. In response to his demise, Chau's family expressed forgiveness towards those involved and requested leniency for the local contacts who aided his journey. At any rate, given the nature of the slaying, none of the North Sentinelese have ever been brought to justice for the slaying. The only individuals charged in relation to this case have been the fishermen who aided Chau. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. Also, I release content regularly, so remember to click the notification bell and turn on all notifications for my channel. And of course, if you made it this far and you haven't clicked the like button or the subscribe button, I would definitely appreciate if you do. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Courtney Hammett, Out of Gray's Mind, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemoose.